the women's college game, who also had their championship this past week. The ratings were down, but it was still a major growth when you compare it to years past. But obviously, there's a bit of a Caitlin Clark effect. She's now with the Indiana Fever, not in college basketball. A lot of great storylines for this women's tournament, but when you see that number, I believe it dropped like what 7 million viewers over
Yeah.
like year over year, but still, like I mentioned, a pretty big improvement from the years prior to that. What when you see that number, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the number is definitely, like, significantly lower than last year, and I think we all know why. Caitlin Clark, like, has made what, women's basketball is at this point, to at least the viewership extent. Her style of basketball is so much fun to watch. Everybody, like, knows that she's always gonna have a good game, it feels like. She's always shooting, like, these crazy shots, has a really good handle, like, had, I think, the first ever, like, 19, I think she's the most assists in WNBA history in her rookie season with, like, 19 or some number like that. Like, she doesn't just, like, make crazy shots, but she, like, finds her teammates and it just improves all the players around her. Her game in general is just, like I was saying, a lot of fun to watch, and I think that is the main reason for the viewership. Also, the women's tournament, just in general, is like vastly more predictable. Like the gap between the first and the 68th best team is quite like stark in the women's game versus the men's game. Obviously, there is a drastic difference. We see the like the first seed beating up on the 16 all the time in the men's tournament, including this year, where like the average point differential was like 30 points. Like that is just a general like known thing. But then you see like 6 seeds beating up on 11 seeds by like 20 or 30 points. Like this tournament, and like this is the closest anyone's ever gotten a perfect bracket in this current format. ESPN put out that like their best bracket went 19 had 1910 points out of 1920 possible points. The only game that the one person got wrong was a first round game where they picked Utah instead of whoever Utah was playing. So just in general, like this tournament feels like a lot more predictable. And even in the national championship, UConn was the 2 seed, but were they really the 2 seed? Like they got like kind of snubbed out of the 1 seed at the end of the season, and they proved why they were deserving of a 1 seed, obviously winning the national championship. But in that game, pregame, the spread was 7.5 points, and UConn was favored by, they were minus 340 to win the national championship. So a South Carolina team that was a 1 seed and played really well all season were significant underdogs, and it just felt like every step of the way we kind of knew who was winning, especially without Juju Watkins in for USC. That could have been, that probably would have been the highest rated like game overall, because of you just didn't have the star power this year. Like I couldn't name more than 2 players on the South Carolina team, unfortunately, and I know Paige Beckers, but I don't really know anyone else. So when you had Angel Reese versus Paige Beckers, or Camila Gardoso versus Caitlin Clark, or Angel Reese or whoever, like you had those stars in the game like last year, but this year not so much, besides Paige Beckers. And I think that if Juju Watkins isn't making waves next year, which I'm sure she will, and if she, but like there needs to be a star for people to watch. I feel like, and there didn't feel like there was that, except for Paige Beckers this year, and she still drew like a crazy crowd. But like 3 million views is nothing. 3 million consistent viewers is nothing to scoff at. But it's definitely a dip from Caitlin Clark's 10 million last year.
Yeah, it was officially 10.8 to 3.9. Uh, I think you're kind of alluding to it. There are just simply levels to this. You can be a star like Paige Beckers. She is a women's basketball star. Caitlin Clark is a sports star. She
Yeah.
is like an icon, like literally. So you're going to see some drop. I love how you brought up Juju Watkins, though. That injury definitely really hurt the tournament, I would say, overall. And then, yeah, we were talking about this, or not we, but like we've heard this been talked about for a long time. Obviously, UConn won their 12th national championship under Gino Auriemma, and it's like there is a level of draw that dynasties and dominance brings, but when you don't feel like you're getting challenged along the way, along the journey, it's a little bit, it has a little pushback. It's like, okay, well, UConn's going to win. Or the average fan just thinks, oh, UConn, of course they won, right? And even if it's like slightly close, it really needs to be a battle, have rivals, storylines. And unfortunately, this year, it it did, but it didn't reach like that casual fan. And but it still had this huge increase. So it's not bad. It's not bad. It's just you clearly know what you had, what you still need, and then you just try to build on it next year. The marketing teams should be running. They should have their minds churning. How can we make this something more of a draw? Because there's a lot of good basketball going on.
And then with the complaint with the men's tournament that there wasn't enough madness this year, I think you can carry that over even more so to the women's tournament. Obviously, we talked about the 61 or 62 out of 63 correct picks. But then if you look at the bracket, the lowest seed in the Elite Eight was a 3 seed, and there was only one of them. It was 1-2. Like the matchups in the Elite Eight, the 4 matchups were 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and 1-3. The 3 seed being LSU. And then like in the Sweet 16, the low seed was a 5 seed, and then every other matchup was 1-4 or 2-3, and then there were 2 5 seeds that made it. So there were just if you're not going to have those stars, you almost want there to be a little bit more drama in the fact that there's going to be lower seeds getting like upsetting higher seeds, and that just doesn't really happen in the women's tournament in general. And then it proved that this year it was even more so like that. I mean, like they also had every 1 seed except UConn make it to the Final Four, like the men's tournament, except for UConn, and then UConn beat up on a USC team that didn't have Juju Watkins. So there just wasn't the drama there from like a upset perspective, and there wasn't in either tournament this year. But especially like if you're gonna try to like draw in more casual fans for like a narrative or like a team to root for, there wasn't that this year, and then there wasn't like the star power to that level this year for the ratings to really be up there. So just in general, the tournament definitely a little bit of a dip, and then that's partly the Caitlin Clark effect, maybe a little bit of the fact that the women's tournament is just so top heavy, but it's unfortunate. But I mean,
it's another level of top heavy. Like that's the point. Is like this was like a all-time top heavy tournament for the men's. Yet we got 3 really great games at the very end. Like that was the whole point. Was like either way, it's gonna kind of work out. And I just think it's how the sport is kind of maybe not built is not the right word, but just what it has. And you know, it has those storylines, has the NBA guys, has players and coaches that don't like each other, the fake Calipari Patino rivalry, like it has that, and then it has some like Cinderella's creeping in, and it's got a little bit of everything regardless. The baseline is a lot higher, I think. And so when you rely on Cinderella's or something like that and it doesn't come, they still have something. So for the women's game, it felt like, okay, you're relying on Caitlin Clark. Well, she's going to be gone. Right. And her rivalry with Angel Reese, like, is a big thing. Like, people watch the LSU Iowa game. And then it's like, well, when you take that away, okay, well, then what do you have? Yes, top heavy, just like the men's tournament, but the games aren't even close. Or there's not even a one Cinderella out of the first round. Like, there's not even a huge upset that you can really, really bank on. That this was a great game. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. And then you also have a star that goes down because of injury. And it's like, all right, like, you're due for like losing viewers. But that's what's actually so great though, too. This is such a positive. It was up. It was still up from the years prior to Caitlin Clark. That's so big. That's growth.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, it's not like this just completely dipped off and there were less than a million viewers. Like, there was still like a buzz around the national championship, and it was unfortunate the time slot they put it in too. I think it like started at 3 p.m., which like we touched on like hitting the field yesterday. They touched on this a little bit, but I just think that's the Girls Got Game. They touched on it where I just thought that was like interesting that like for no other national championship that you'd ever see like a 3 p.m. time slot. I think that hurt them as well, but.
Yeah, it's been like that, I thought, for a while. But you're right. A very unusual time slot. Hey, I hated the 8:50 p.m. Eastern time slot for the men's. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, but just one final point I was going to make, maybe about the lack of upsets. There were 4 total out of 32 games. There were 4 total upsets, which I mean, like not the worst number in the world. It could be 0, but the upsets were on 2 9 seeds and 2 10 seeds. So a 7-10 matchup and 8-9 matchup. Those were the two total 4 total upsets that happened during the first round out of 32 games. So it's just unfortunate when you don't have the Cinderella aspect, and then you don't have the big stars aspect, at least not matching up until the later rounds. It kind of like the tournament obviously is going to take a dip, but in general, it is growth, and it is good for that. And like just in general, 3.89 million viewers, it is still so many.